Good morning! You join me in Stuttgart, in Germany, for those who didn't know. I'm just here hanging out in my hotel room with wee wee pups and wee wee ducky, having a good time with some crunch chips and some nip-ons. And there's a Nutella sachet which I stole from breakfast and might just eat by itself later. But I thought I'd talk to you today about unselfishness, because there are lots of people that say that there's no such thing as an unselfish action, and I would wholeheartedly disagree, because actually I've experienced one of these actions. I was the one who did the action, the unselfish action, because I am unselfish. But yeah, it was in Edinburgh. I was 20 years old, and we just finished a show. And it was at the Edinburgh Fringe, and there was this big cast party, and everyone was really drunk, apart from me, because I'm really good and I don't ever get drunk. And there was this one guy who was particularly drunk, and he knows exactly who he is. He's a good friend of mine. He was particularly drunk. He was like dancing really weirdly, and he was kissing everyone and saying like, "I love you." Typical drunk. But anyway, we were in a taxi on the way back to where we were staying, and I could see that he was starting to get a bit of a funny look in his eyes, and then all of a sudden, like, I saw his expression just suddenly change, and I knew that vomiting was imminent. And like, without really thinking about it, there's no logical train of thought here at all, I just threw myself into the path of that vomit for reasons now I cannot explain. And then so the taxi driver stopped, stamped on the brakes. We were quite close to home, so it wasn't so bad. But the taxi driver stopped and he got out, and instead of shouting at the person who was sick, he shouted at the person who was covered in the sick. So I got shouted at. He was like, "You're a bit lucky you don't have to pay for this. It costs a fortune to get the taxi clean." I was like, well, there wasn't even any sick in the taxi, because it's all over me, There was a lot of it as well, but not one drop of it went on that taxi, I am proud to say. So I got shouted at by the taxi guy, even though I saved his taxi from being covered in vomit. And then we got back to where we were staying, and I immediately went to have a shower, and I was kind of like weeping because I'd just been shouted at, and I was like washing myself and weeping, and as I did so. And then, because after you've been vomited on, you don't really feel like having a good time anymore. So I just went and sat, and I think we were sleeping on the floor, so I was just sat in my sleeping bag, and everyone else was still like, "Oh, having fun, having a good time. We're not covered in sick." So like, the worst thing about it was that, it would have all made it better if this guy had been like, "Oh, Rachel, thank you so much. Thank you, Singing Duck, so much for like helping me, and for not for me having to pay this like massive taxi cleaning bill." But the thing is, he doesn't even remember any of it. He actually instantly forgot what had happened. And so I didn't even get any reward from that. So not only was I shouted at, and like, he didn't seem to care, but everyone else was laughing at me because I was covered in sick. And so, I think that what I did, even though I don't remember why I did it, it was just a spur of the moment thing, it was a completely unselfish action. I wasn't at all thinking of myself. I gained nothing from that apart from a lot of vomit. So, yeah, I'm unselfish. And I just have to live with that. So I'm probably going to get covered in a lot more sick. That's my conclusion. The end.